Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leading from the Middle. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Michael Netzley. Now, my friends, Mike is known by many of you who are on this podcast as a famous professor from SMU. He was one of the founding professors of the SMU Communications Department. You were there for about 20 years.
17 years.
17 years. And then he made a career pivot. And now, while continuing his professorial journey, as an adjunct in universities like IMD and SMU, you've started a business called Thrive After 45. What's that about?
Okay. Well, Thrive After 45 is actually part of the larger entity we called Extend My Runway, which is focused on the fact that we're aging, we're living longer, we're working longer, and people just want to have a great second half of life. So Thrive After 45 is sort of the B2C side of this, where I'm helping individuals, and Extend My Runway is really more of an AI for good company targeting corporations, but they both fit together.
And your whole purpose is to help people in the second half of their lives, meaning people 40 and above, second half of their lives, extend their runway of productivity, well-being. Is that correct?
Precisely. And for the first time in human history, we have aged societies. And societies have always been structured, organized, infrastructure around the young. And now all of a sudden you have all of these people who are living longer in a knowledge economy. They're still vibrant, they're still capable, and they're discovering that they have all these strengths in the second half of life that my father's generation would never have had the opportunity to even realize that. So what we're trying to do is bring neuroscience to the forefront so that people can unlock this opportunity and make life's second half their best half.
What's the problem you're solving for here? Why is this business, Extend My Runway / Thrive After 45, why is such a business necessary? Is something not right for people currently in the second half of their lives? Are they being disadvantaged that you need to come and start a business to solve a problem? What problem are you solving for people like me in the second stage of our lives?
In a way, that's kind of a tough question because people don't necessarily realize yet that they have a problem.
Yeah.
Nobody realized that they wanted a touchscreen phone until Apple invented it.
Sure.
So it's kind of that dilemma. But a couple of things are happening here. Number one, we are living longer. And in the wake of that, we have incredibly little social information or common knowledge that says, here's how you make the most out of the second half of life.
Okay.
And on top of that, the number of myths and misinformation and non-science that passes as science actually gets in the way. And if we want to look at it from an employer's point of view, when that hair color starts to change,
Okay.
when you start to slow down, guess what? Younger and cheaper starts to look better.
Or AI starts to look better than you. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so there we go. You look better. But younger and cheaper just takes the day. And companies don't yet realize that there's this incredible talent opportunity, and they're not taking it. So how do people live and survive in a world that's built not for them?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that, unfortunately, the world is established infrastructurally, policy-wise, to favor the young.
Exactly.
Right? Businesses hire younger people and displace older ones first, potentially. Younger ones are cheaper. Businesses implement new technologies and potentially displace us who are seen to be a little bit more outdated once you hit 40, 50. And also the concept of retirement at 65 doesn't quite work, given that we're not living till 80 anymore. In fact, there was a whole book about living past 100.
Yeah, Linda Drotten's book, fantastic.
What's the book called?
100-Year Life.
The 100-year life, right? Where many people in many societies are now expected to live beyond 100. So you're helping us figure out that second wind. Wonderful.
So a lot of our listeners are around our age group. Jasper and I are in our 40s, right? One of the questions I think they will have is, why 45? Why not like 50? Does something happen to our brains or our physique at 45? Why this mark?
Okay, first of all, if you're approaching 40, I really feel old right now because you do not look 40.
Thank you. Well, we need to replay this all the time.
But biologically, there's something that happens in middle life. And let's say that it is sort of this window from 40 to 60 ballpark. Because every human being is a little bit different. So maybe it starts a little earlier for one, a little bit later for other. Why 45? It just rhythmically works well with thrive after 45. So, But what happens is, okay, a little bit of science here. All right.
Let's go.
So first of all, cognitive decline is inevitable, and that starts in your 30s.
Okay.
But what we don't know, or you know broadly, is that the brain simultaneously compensates for that decline. So it starts to rewire. And there are periods, aging is not linear. There are peaks and valleys. One of the early peaks is actually right around 44, 45. The next peak is around 60, where you have really rapid aging. So what you need to accomplish is this. You need to invest in yourself in ways that strengthen the compensation so that the compensation exceeds the decline.
Okay. Tell us about that 45 and 60 peak in aging that you talked about just a moment ago.
Okay. So study, I think it's less than a year old now. And what they did is they actually measured periods of aging. And
Periods of aging.
yeah, so we have this window that, again, ballpark is 40 to 60. And they immediately saw that aging does not happen in a smooth, linear way. There's peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
And there were two dominant peaks, meaning these are periods where you age faster than other times in life, 44 and 60.
What happens there? What do you mean by aging? What actually happened? What changes do we see at 44 and 60?
Cellular level changes, cognitive decline in terms of actual performance. There will be aging in the body as well. So it can be physical performance, dexterity. What you will probably experience in your life is, for the first time, you'll go, what was his name again?
So you see that age becomes more pronounced in that couple of years.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Wow. And you said compensate just now. Compensation must be bigger than the decline. Explain to us what compensate means.
Okay. So the good Lord gave us several gifts. One of them is something called neuroplasticity. Your brain has the ability to rewire and change. If you want to think of this as edit mode in the brain.
Okay.
It's edit mode. Now, some of this will happen naturally as we live our life. And so this compensation is just simply the brain doing what neuroplasticity has it do. It realizes that perhaps, for example, memory is starting to decline, or working memory, to be specific, is starting to decline. So it will adjust around that.
Okay.
Okay. And so it's just trying to keep you vibrant. It's a survival mode. It's trying to keep you vibrant, thriving, and doing well in life, simply put.
You mentioned AI, right? What is the interaction between AI and really helping that neuroplasticity? Because you said something about behavior.
Yes. So there are what we can do. The reason I've created a business is because we can take steps to strengthen not only that compensation function, but we can literally strengthen specific cognitive functions the same way you go to the gym and strengthen your biceps or your quads, or the same way you go for a run and strengthen your cardiovascular system. So you can strengthen innovation, strategic thinking, collaboration, managing complexity, all of these things. So AI and behavior. If you're going to strengthen them, what that means is that neuroplasticity kicks in, and the neural pathways for innovative thinking or strategic thinking or collaboration, they get stronger so that it's easier to perform that particular function. The number one trigger for neuroplasticity to change your brain is behavior. Change your behavior, change your brain.
Give me an example of behavior. Say I'm 41 this year, right? And I want to enhance my collaboration skills or innovation skills. What do I need to tweak about my current behavior that helps that neuroplasticity to change?
Okay, so first I'll give you a card from my coaching, but then after... So let's say that, for example, behaviorally, somebody is too much of a people pleaser, too much of a yes person. A very simple thing I would have them do is 3 times a day, every day, say no to somebody. Intentionally, by design, say no. And you keep repeating that. What you're doing is strengthening the neural pathways so that it feels natural to say no. Where before that, it feels unfamiliar. I'm not used to operating that way. And even though I want to tell you no, I hold back because it feels so unfamiliar to me.
So that's a good example of that physical behavior of saying no changes the neural pathways or makes your brain more wired to be confident to say no. So the behavior reshapes the brain. I get that.
Yep.
Now, how do we apply that same approach or method of behavior first, brain follows, to this concept of, defending or compensating against aging?
Okay.
Right.
So there's 2 levels on here. One of them is going to be called brain health.
Okay.
So if your brain is not healthy, that ability to compensate or that ability to optimize their brain training is just flat out diminished because the health is low. And then after that, the second step would be brain training. So brain health, there's many dimensions, but I like to begin with what I call the brain health trinity.
Wow.
Trinity.
Sleep, exercise, and nutrition.
Sleep, exercise, nutrition, the brain health trinity. Okay.
Yes. So I've been collecting data on this for over 7 years now, and very, very, very few people get enough of all 3.
Sleep, health, nutrition.
Yes. And even so, for a period of time, I was working with the Center for Brain Health. I was looking at brain health index scores so they can actually measure this. And even working with, for example, high-powered CEOs who would look you in the eye and say, I dare you to be as productive as I am.
Okay.
Their brain health was incredibly marginal. And it makes me look at them and go, how good could you be if you actually took care of yourself?
Tell me, give me an example. What is the deviation? What is the delta between somebody with great brain health and somebody with average brain health? What do they create for the world? What's their productivity? What's their well-being when their brain health is better?
And does genetics contribute to it? Because I can imagine some people are born with much better brain health or things like that, and whatever they do is just...
Okay, so let's start with the first one, right? Let's talk about what's the benefit.
Yeah.
And does genetics play a part? And if there is some control that behavior has as opposed to genetics, what can we do about it? So let's start with the first one. What's the benefit that you see from somebody with great brain health? What's the delta in terms of performance, productivity, impact, well-being?
Okay. To say that there is a delta is difficult.
Okay.
Because we're talking about an instrument between your ears that has, what is it?
So many other
85 million. It's stunning neurons in there. You're talking several trillion neural connections in there. The complexity is mind-boggling. And so to try and explain it with a single measurement or a single concept just completely misses the complexity of what we're dealing with.
Okay.
Now, having said that, you measure individually. Okay, so I'll take myself as an example here. When I started on my own brain health journey, I was probably getting about 6 hours of sleep a night. I thought I was pretty decent. Here's what happens at 6 hours of sleep. Amazing study from University of Pennsylvania hospitals. They divided their study population into a group that got 8 hours of sleep, a group that got 6 hours of sleep, a group that got 4 hours of sleep, and a small group that had pulled an all-nighter. The next mornings, they would do performance tests. No surprise, the people who pulled an all-nighter performed the worst. The people who got 8 hours of sleep performed the best. The next worst was the 4 hours. The surprise is the 6-hour group. They pretty much held their own for 8, 9, 10 days. But by that 10th day, 100% of the people, their performance plummeted to the same level as the people who performed an all-nighter.
Sounds like burnout.
Most of the people that I've been collecting data on over these last 7.5 years are sleeping less than 6 hours a night.
Yeah. So you're saying that short term, 6 hours a night, okay, 1-2 days, you're fine. If you make it a consistent pattern, then you're gonna be actually disadvantaging your performance, almost as if you will just had an all-nighter.
You're giving others the opportunity to outperform you, is what you're doing. And, for people who have mortgages or kids or parental care issues, why would you give somebody else the advantage?
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so that's brain health measured by sleep. You said other things, right? You said there's a trinity. Brain, sleep, nutrition,
Exercise.
and exercise.
Sorry, yeah, sleep, nutrition, exercise. So, any similar deltas with regards to the impact of nutrition and exercise?
The body of research on exercise is simply becoming mind-boggling. There is so much of it.
Okay.
And whether you're dancing or resistance training or swimming or jogging, it's all pointing in the exact same direction. There's not a single answer here. Memory is going to improve. Focus is going to improve. Sleep is going to improve. Your ability to reduce brain fog and think clearly about issues is going to improve.
So it's not about what you do, just do exercise and just do it, and basically brain fog, memory, sleep,
focus, all these things improve. Neuroplasticity improves. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And nutrition becomes important because your brain is an energy hog. It's 2% of your body mass, but it consumes 20% of your energy. Running a marathon does not come close to the amount of energy that your brain consumes during the day. So mitochondrial health, providing good nutrients, not starting your day with that mocha latte with whipped cream from Starbucks. I mean, what a horrible thing to do to your body.
That's pretty, looks guilty.
Well, I didn't have a mocha latte with whipped cream. I mean, there's no whipped cream in my diet.
Okay, no whipped cream.
But I do have a latte, no mocha.
Yeah.
Protein's your best breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of our listeners like us, we have to multitask at work. I read that multitasking actually reduces cognitive efficiency. What is the science on that?
Oh, rock solid. First of all, multitasking is a myth. Your brain cannot do two cognitively demanding tasks simultaneously. You switch between them. Our brains are horrible at switching. And in addition to that, when you switch, residue from the remaining task remains in your brain. So as you multitask, all you're doing is filling up your very limited, and trust me, it's very limited, this very limited cognitive bandwidth with a bunch of residue from previous tasks, diminishing what you have available to do your job now, and again, making it easy for other people to perform better than you.
How about doom scrolling? I do a fair bit of that. Sandeep, our producer, also probably does it. He has this guilty look. Yeah, when we just all go on Instagram, TikTok, and we just doom scroll, lie on our beds. What does that do to our brain?
You're consuming that very precious mental bandwidth on something that probably adds zero value to your life, leaving that residue in there. I'm reluctant to get into the dopamine issue because it's everybody's favorite bogeyman, and we're again trying to use a single explanation for something profoundly complex. But you are just you're seeking more. And all of a sudden, you're 45 minutes in, and you've gotten zero value out of it. That's that dopamine kind of driving you forward.
The last question, maybe, a lot of people are worried about dementia, when they reach their 50s and 60s. I do have a few relatives who suffer from that. Is there any correlation between brain health, how well you take care of your brain, and dementia?
Incredibly strong. 40 to 50% of dementia cases, 40 to 50% of strokes are preventable. Your starting point is brain health.
Oh my gosh. In the next episode, we shall ask Dr. Mike on how we can keep our brains healthy in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. Thank you so much, Dr.
My
Mike.
pleasure. Thank you.
This was amazing. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.